This week, we head to the slightly damp cityscape of brand new indie smash, Submerged. We find out what's going on in Everybody's Gone To The Rapture, and Jonny Robot chats to Wargaming about their surprisingly non-military space epic, Master of Orion. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we learned about one of the inevitable downsides of upgrading to a new operating system. If you are a retro PC gamer, be warned, many of your old favourites will not run on Windows 10. It's not that Microsoft is going out of its way to block things, although it did remove Solitaire from the new system, but more that many older games were bundled with some pretty useless copy protection software, and Windows 10 won't let it run. Games like The Sims, Battlefield 1942 and Grand Theft Auto 3 all use software called SecuROM, which was designed to prevent software piracy and instead succeeded in frustrating legitimate gamers to the point where EA was actually sued for including the service in one of its games. The DRM is so enthusiastic that it burrows deep into your operating system, a behaviour also used by computer viruses, so Windows 10 doesn't allow that to happen. Now, if you really want to play these older games, you have a few choices. You can buy an updated version from somewhere like GOG.com or Steam, which has patched the DRM out. You can avoid upgrading your PC to run Windows 10, or if you're really desperate and prepared to take some risks, you can snoop around for a no CD patch for the games you'd like to play, because that might be the only option you have left. It was a big week for esports, with the Wargaming League APAC Asia Season 1 finals held in Seoul, South Korea. The region's 4 best World of Tanks teams faced off in the nation's esports stadium, and thousands watched from around the world as Korean juggernaut Kongdu, formerly known as Arete, started out strong but were unable to defend their 3-tournament winning streak, crumbling to Chinese team EL Gaming. It looks like excitement of an entirely different kind at the Pokemon World Championships in Boston, however, as 2 men turned up to the event brandishing firearms and a bucket load of ammunition. Police acted on a tip-off following threats of violence made to attendees via social media, where the men had promised to kill the competition. A search of their car revealed that the men, aged 27 and 18, had brought a 12-gauge shotgun, an AR-15 rifle, a hunting knife, and several hundred rounds of ammunition. Neither men had a license for the guns, and both have now been charged with unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition, as well as additional firearm-related charges. Moving right along, and Pokemon rival Yo-Kai Watch has finally set a date for its Western release. We first saw the localised version of the Japanese Smash Monster Hunter at E3, but now we can confirm it is headed to 3DS consoles outside of its home territory in November this year. Nintendo has also been getting busy in the patent filing business, submitting paperwork for something many believe will be the Nintendo NX game console. While the controller looks familiar enough with a display screen like the Wii U gamepad, the console itself is more interesting and does not feature a disc drive. Instead, there is an internal hard drive and some network capabilities, so it could simply download and store games that you want to play. However, don't pin your hopes on this one just yet. Original documentation for the Xbox One didn't feature a disc drive either, and just look how that turned out. In mobile gaming news, Bethesda is pleased to announce the births of more than 81 million babies to 85 million happy overseers in Fallout Shelter. In the first month of the game's availability, that's when it was an iOS exclusive, nearly 65 million dwellers were sent out to the wasteland and 21 million died there. These numbers have already grown considerably. Fallout Shelter is now available for Android as well. Don't call it a comeback, but Pac-Man has made a glorious return to the games market, with Pac-Man 256 hitting smartphones last week. The game is a little different to what you've seen before. It's now an endless runner where you must navigate the familiar yellow fellow through a maze, chased by colourful ghosts and avoiding the mysterious and intentional 256 glitch. Pac-Man 256 is a joint project between Bandai Namco Vancouver and Australian studio Hipster Whale, the team behind smash hit Crossy Road. It's available right now for just about all mobile devices, and it's free to play for as long as you want. And speaking of Australia, industry veteran Warren Spector has been named as this year's opening keynote speaker at PAX Australia. The man credited with the creation of games as varied as Deus Ex and Disney Epic Mickey will be on stage for Friday morning's Storytime event, following in the footsteps of Bethesda's Pete Hines and the grumpy gamer himself, Ron Gilbert. PAX Australia kicks off at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre from October 30. Other guests are yet to be named, but musical acts The Double Clicks and MC Frontalot are already confirmed. 3-day passes have sold out, but you can still grab single-day tickets for each day if that's how you roll. And in still more Australian news, Xbox has announced a partnership with V8 Supercars, meaning that we'll both see more Xbox on the racetrack and more real cars on the console. A deal with DJR Team Penske will see the familiar green Xbox car driven by Marcus Ambrose and Scott Pye in all of this year's Enduro series, including Bathurst 2015. The other side of the deal means that the Mount Panorama racetrack will be included in Forza Motorsport 6, as it has been in previous years, but excitingly, you'll also be able to race 10 cars representing all 5 current V8 Supercar Series manufacturers in-game. Ford, Holden, Nissan, Volvo and Erebus Mercedes cars will all be available in the game in their glorious 2015 livery. No real movie game news this week, but the latest Hitman film has hit cinemas and reports suggest that it's been hit hard with a video game tie-in curse. Hitman Agent 47 has been gaining dismal reviews all around the world, sitting at just 29 on Metacritic and a tiny 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Still, that is better than the latest Fantastic Four, so maybe it's not a completely lost cause. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, got plenty more still to come.
I'm Jonny Robot here at E3, and I'm hanging out with Wargaming and their new labour of love, Master of Orion. It's a franchise that's been on hiatus for quite a while. Do you want to give us a little bit of background on it?
Sure. It first came out in 1993, and it really sort of defined the 4X space genre. And by 4X, we mean expand, exploit, explore, and exterminate. Those are really the 4 pillars of the Master of Orion experience.
If you hadn't already guessed, it's a space simulator.
Yes, I would consider it a space epic. I mean, you start off by choosing one of 10 available alien races from the original Master of Orion, and this choice of alien race will determine how you decide to, address all those 4 elements of the 4X genre. Some races will have certain advantages over the others, and it affects the kind of decisions that you make, from what technology you can build to what planets you can colonize.
There's a huge level of customization here I saw with the tech trees, and do you want to get into a little bit about that?
Sure. We have 75 possible choices in the tech tree, all of them leading to additional technology that you can unlock and capabilities. And again, your path through the tech tree is unique to your own. A lot of it is going to be driven by which victory condition you want to achieve. And everybody starts off with 5. Some of them are very specific, just exterminate all of your opponents, but some of them are a little bit more subtle, like, for example, diplomacy, where essentially the entire universe falls in love with you and essentially votes you as like Master of Orion. Again, depending on the victory objective, this will have to inform your path through the tech tree, and not only that, how you decide to develop planets, what new ships to build, how you decide to be, to how much diplomacy you want to employ when you're dealing with the other alien races that are out there. With this reboot of Master of Orion, again, we're really focused on the craftsmanship. We're staying true to the deep and the depth of gameplay, with all of your decisions, having a true impact on your progress. But at the same time, we are sort of displaying your decisions to you in such a way that you can create an emotional connection with it. You can see your planet's population start to increase. You'll start to see more ambient animations, ships flying around, lights showing up on the ground. Again, all of this really depends on how you decide to grow this planet. And growing the planet is going to depend entirely on a multitude of different decisions that you can make. You can be benevolent, or you could be malevolent and just up the taxes to 20% because you really want to get all of your production and your research done. Again, we really leave everything up to the player. And I think that's the beauty of Master of Orion. It's true player agency.
One of the things with these games as well is sometimes they seem to have a fairly high learning curve for new players. How have you guys addressed that?
The way we've addressed it is coming up with a user interface that gives you visual feedback. So, for example, when you're managing population, we've opted for literally dragging and dropping characters from one lane to another. So you can see visually the changes in the decisions that you're making, the changes to the way the game functions. So you can see number of turns dropping or your population being able to increase, a couple of turns later. On top of that, we're definitely visualizing as much of the interface as possible so that you're not really playing much of a spreadsheet. You feel like you're actually in the universe interacting with a living, breathing galaxy.
You mentioned earlier as well, the world is very dynamic. What kind of things can we expect to come across?
Yes, so the world is very dynamic. You can actually, before you even start the game, you can set how large or how small it is. How many alien races do you want to have interacting with you? And we can even adjust the age of the universe. So depending on the age, you can have a young universe where everything is still very fresh, everything's very new, or you can have an old one where planets are just about to explode. Again, these dynamic moments in the game really are what makes Master of Orion very interesting and very unique experience for every single person that plays it. And beyond that, we have the concept of anomalies. These are events within the galaxy itself that manifest as you continue to expand and explore. Now, these anomalies can either be good or bad, but you'll never really know until you visit them.
One of the things I noticed when you were playing it as well is in most 4X games, you just exploit everything you can find. But in this one, you can't.
Yes, exactly. So, again, your choice of race is really going to determine how you expand through the galaxies. Certain races will find some planets hospitable, which allows them to jump into it very quickly, but some planets may be inhospitable, which delays your ability to colonize them. You could still make meaningful decisions around these planets, but maybe not so much in a way that you can colonize them right away.
Just hold them as bargaining chips then.
Exactly. Definitely just stake out your claim in the galactic sort of turf war. Even if I can't enter that building, at least I'm at the front gates, keeping you away from it.
And the two most important questions, bombs or diplomacy?
I would say both, in equal measure.
And who has the real advantage here?
Oh, my goodness. It's hard to say. I would say, at least for me personally, if you can start to research your bombs early, I think it helps a lot more with diplomacy. So get your research going as early as possible.
Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks.
I don't really know what it means when someone says that a game isn't for everyone. I can't really think of too many games that are for everyone. I mean, there are plenty of people who don't like first-person shooters, or who aren't fond of action adventures, or who can't stand strategies or sims or whatever else is flavour of the month. Anyway, new indie title Submerged is one of those not for everyone games. In this case, what that means is simple. There's no combat. There's also no English, and not really much in the way of outright challenge, but none of that makes it a bad experience. Quite the contrary. What Submerged does have is a girl, Miku, exploring a flooded city trying to save her injured brother. You, as Miku, need to navigate the city streets in your boat, climbing drowned buildings and scouring everything you can, searching for the supplies you need to help him. Once you've spotted the things you need with your trusty telescope, you then need to work out how to get there and pick them up. And this is where the puzzle element comes in, as you climb vines, ladders and ledges, and things do get more difficult as you go along. Of course, as you progress, you don't just find things to help your story. You also uncover plenty of things that tell the story of the city, its former inhabitants, and the lives that now thrive in the slightly damp environment, as well as some propeller upgrades that will improve your boat's performance. The world is underwater. It's undeniably the scene of a major environmental catastrophe, but it's not the post-apocalyptic setting we're used to. There's no rubble and no bodies, but no survivors either. It's not a location where horrible aquatic mutants are lurking in the depths. There are sharks, but even they don't pose a threat. The art design and direction is breathtaking, complete with a day-night cycle and a weather system that brings both storms and sunshine to the city. Happily, Submerged is a game that lets you take your time and fully appreciate the finer details like this. Yes, you do need to find various items to help your brother, but there are no time limits, no penalties, and no real way to die. If you want to take a moment to gaze at the sunrise, listen to the ocean, or smell the virtual roses, do that. Watch the creatures that live in the underwater city. Lounge on a rooftop and enjoy the glorious environment Submerged is set within. Listen to the haunting melancholic soundtrack and just breathe. But maybe that's not for you. Maybe you want something with more action. Maybe you don't like games like the old school Tomb Raiders, which put more emphasis on exploration and puzzling rather than fighting. Maybe you don't want a game that offers a postcard option so you can take beautiful screenshots of your experiences. But maybe you do. Submerged set out to be a serene and relaxing game experience, and so, unlike so many games on the market these days, it's managed to deliver exactly that. From the opening cutscene, which unfolds slowly and deliberately, we're shown, and not told, what to expect. It doesn't take long before you are thoroughly invested in the world, in Miku's story, in her quest to save her brother, and all of that happens without lengthy exposition, in fact, without any words at all. And sometimes that's exactly what you want, or you need, or both. Or at least it's exactly what I want, or need, or both. Submerge will give you a solid evening's worth of gameplay, longer if you really take your time exploring the world, and it'll leave you with more than a few lingering thoughts as you piece together your own ideas of what happened. Okay, so it's clear why this one is labelled as a game that's not for everyone. But maybe everyone should play something like Submerged to take a moment and look around and appreciate the fact that games aren't all the same.
Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Bit of an ominous name. What's happening?
So it's a science fiction mystery exploration open world game. It's very story driven, very hard to talk about because everything's part of this massive jigsaw puzzle. What's happened? Where is everyone? Who are you? Why are you there? And all of that is what you're basically doing in the game, is trying to answer those questions. So yeah, we put you down in this remote English valley in 1984. Something terrible has clearly happened, and it's just up to you to try and work out what it is.
So the Thatcher government, then?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, it doesn't get much more terrible than that. But yeah, the shades of that. There's a lot of references to kind of like Cold War stuff that was going on there. A lot of the stuff that we grew up in when we were in the 80s, of those kind of like fears that the world was going to end, which was pretty live when we were kids. So that's all in there as well.
So it's a very vast open world that you get to just explore and basically discover the narrative all on your own?
Yeah, absolutely. So the game is all about that discovery of story. It's your story. We don't want to sort of like be pushing you down a pipe, dropping story in front of you, which is where, like we say, it's like the spiritual like sequel to Dear Esther. It really is evolving, trying to push the genre way beyond that of going, we don't just want to be kind of like dropping story in front of a player now. We want to say, this is your story. You go out, you discover it. The game is, if you are really, really exploring heavily, there's probably a good 6 hours worth of gameplay in there, so it's a pretty big open world, and there's an awful lot of detail to find. There's clues everywhere as to what happened. And the other thing which is really important to us is we're really trying to present something that feels like a real community with real people, that the kind of, when you're finding sort of stuff about these people, you're going, I know these people, I've grown up with them, I'm married to them, I'm related to them, I'm friends with them. And that's what we think really makes you care about the story that you're going. This isn't just this abstract thing of, all right, it's the end of the world, and it's sort of happened over there to these people who are going, no, this happened to us, and this is how we would react in these situations. So, yeah, it's fundamentally a game about people.
And you said it's a spiritual successor to Dear Esther, essentially. Is there a little bit more interactivity than Dear Esther had?
Yeah, I mean, Dear Esther was very kind of like passively, you just move around the environment. So some of the mystery seems to be connected to signals that have been coming through the radio, the TVs, the telephones. You can kind of engage with all those kind of objects, and there's lots of clues buried in them. So you want to be checking, does this TV turn on? Is there a signal on this phone? Is that phone ringing? Can I answer it? There's also these strange phenomena that you come across, these kind of light trails and balls of light which seem to be connected to what's happened somehow, and when you find those, you're using the DS4 tilt to actually kind of tune in like you tune in an analog radio to try and find the signal on those, and that kind of unlocks special scenes as well. So yeah, there's definitely more of a sense of you're doing more than just walking around.
In this apocalyptic, wonderful little English village, are you the only survivor, or are there other folk around?
That's up for you to find out. We can't give that away, we'd have to kill you.
I don't want that to happen today.
That's death in this game without adding to it.
That's just brutal. So is it just a single-player experience as well, or is there any form of community or multiplayer aspect to it?
No, it's single-player only, so it's really... We want to get that... get you as close to the story as possible, and that sense of just being alone in this valley is really important to the atmosphere and the emotion of it. So, yeah, it's single-player, which is good, I think.
So when can we expect this petrifying, pure isolation game?
It's going to be out on the 11th of August, digital download from PSN.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, Firaxis take us into the dangerous waters of new expansion Civilization Beyond Earth Rising Tide, while Jonny Robot indulges his retro fanboy side as he chats to Capcom about Mega Man Legacy. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.